The night the billionaire's son was born, the mansion fell silent in a way no one expected. Not because the staff moved like shadows, or because reporters camped outside the gates were finally quiet, but because the baby didn't cry. Doctors rushed, machines beeped, and the powerful Donovan family held its breath as specialists examined the newborn boy. When they finally spoke, their words cut through the room like cold steel. "He can't hear you. He was born completely deaf." From that moment on, young Adrian Donovan lived inside a world wrapped in silence, a world his father tried to fix with the best surgeons money could buy, and his mother tried to soften with love that couldn't reach his ears. By the time he was 12, he had a private tutor, a private interpreter, and an entire wing of the mansion designed for his comfort. Yet he had never heard a single sound. He often wondered what a laugh felt like when heard, not just seen. Whether rain had music, whether voices had colors. He wondered so much that sometimes his chest hurt from it. And then she arrived. The new housemaid his father hired without fuss, a quiet woman named Marena, who seemed to know things no one told her. She moved differently from the others, not tiptoeing around the boy like the porcelain doll everyone treated him as. She looked at him, not his condition. She signed to him with confidence, even elegance, though no one remembered teaching her. And one chilly autumn evening, when the mansion's corridors were washed in gold light, Adrian found her kneeling beside one of the old floor vents, brushing away dust with her fingers, as if listening to something in the metal. He approached curiously. She smiled, not pity, but recognition. "You hear something?" he signed. She nodded. "Not with my ears." He frowned, confused, until she reached inside her apron pocket and pulled out something small. Something wrapped in old velvet, something that made her hands tremble just slightly. A carved wooden pendant, smooth, ancient, etched with symbols Adrian had never seen. Her eyes locked onto his, and she placed the pendant into his palm. The wood was warmer than it should have been, almost alive. The moment it touched his skin, he gasped, not because he heard something, not exactly, but because for the first time in his life, the silence felt different, thinner, like a curtain someone had just tugged at. Marena watched him closely, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she signed, "Your silence isn't natural. Someone sealed your hearing the night you were born." His pulse thundered, even if he couldn't hear it. He shook his head wildly. "Who? Why?" She didn't answer. Instead, she motioned for him to follow. Down the hall, past security cameras that suddenly flickered, past portraits of ancestors whose painted eyes felt too alive, past the locked basement door his father always kept off limits. When Marena reached it, she pressed the pendant against the metal. The lock clicked open. Adrian froze. He didn't know whether his heart was racing from fear or hope, but something inside him urged him to step forward. As he descended the creaking stairs, he felt, no. He sensed something vibrating faintly in the air, like a distant hum, not heard but felt through the bones. Halfway down, Adrian stopped. He turned to Marena. "What are you?" he signed. She smiled again, soft, ancient, almost sad. Someone who owed you the truth. And as they reached the bottom of the stairs, the shadows parted, revealing a room glowing faint crimson, filled with objects his father had never mentioned. Old tomes, sigils on the walls, and a single glass case at the center. Inside it lay something that looked like... He stepped closer. His breath hitched, because inside the case was a small bundle of fabric, exactly the size of a newborn's head, stained with symbols matching the pendant in his hand. The same pendant that now pulsed lightly against the skin. He raised his hand toward the case, but stopped when the floor beneath him trembled lightly, as though reacting to his presence. Marena touched his shoulder and pointed. There, on the far corner of the cloth, was a signature, his mother's, and beneath it, written faintly as if time tried to erase it, were words that made Adrian's knees weaken. "Forgive me, Adrian. I had to protect you." He swallowed hard, trembling. From what? He lifted the pendant again, and the humming sensation sharpened. Something in the cloth responded. The symbols began to glow. A deep vibration ran through Adrian's chest, swelling like a sound trying to break free from the prison of silence. And then, something on the far wall moved. A shadow. No, a figure. Watching him. Breathing. Waiting. Before Adrian could react, the figure stepped into the faint red light, revealing a face he had only seen in old photographs. A man his father never spoke about. A man everyone believed was dead. His uncle. And his uncle was smiling. The kind of smile that said he'd been waiting for this moment for 12 long years. Adrian's body froze as the man's gaze locked onto his. There was something in those eyes. An intelligence, yes, but also a cruel patience. As if every year of Adrian's silence had been a carefully calculated delay, a countdown that only now reached its climax. He wanted to step back, but the pendant in his hand throbbed with warmth, almost urging him forward. It pulsed against his palm like a heartbeat that suddenly made him feel the vibrations of the room, as though the silence was finally bending around him. Marena's hand rested lightly on his shoulder, grounding him. "Do not be afraid," she signed, but even as she did, the man in the shadows chuckled, a low, resonant sound that made the hairs on Adrian's neck stand on end. The sound was faint at first, more a rumble than anything else, yet somehow Adrian felt it. And then, almost like the pendant responded to that presence, a piercingly sharp tone flared in his mind, not heard but sensed, vibrating through the marrow of his bones. The man stepped closer, and the red light seemed to cling to him, making his features both harsh and hypnotic. "So, Adrian," he said slowly, each word deliberate, as if he savored the effect it had on Adrian's silence. "You finally found the key." He gestured subtly toward the pendant in Adrian's hand. "You see, not all keys unlock doors for the same reason. Some keys awaken truths." Adrian tried to sign a question, but his hands shook too violently. He could barely make the motions for "who are you?" His mind was a storm of fear, curiosity, and something unnameable, a feeling of destiny brushing against him like a phantom. The pendant's pulse intensified, thrumming in tandem with his racing heart. And then, suddenly, a surge of sound, or what he recognized as sound, broke through the silence. It was faint at first, like whispers in a cavern, then grew, harmonizing with the vibrations in his body. For the first time in 12 years, Adrian heard something, not fully, not clearly, but enough to make him gasp. The man's smile widened, almost amused by Adrian's reaction. "Yes," he said, "that's the first taste. You've been silent, but not empty, not broken, not beyond reach. Just waiting." He raised a hand and traced a finger along the air between them. The pendant pulsed stronger. "Your hearing, your connection, it was sealed for a reason." Adrian's mind raced. Sealed? For a reason? What reason? He tried to sign, tried to ask a question, but the man shook his head gently. "No need for words yet," he said. "Your silence was never a punishment. It was protection. And now, protection is no longer enough." Marena leaned in, her eyes scanning the man like a hawk. She signed rapidly. "He's dangerous. He has plans. And you are the missing piece." Adrian's chest tightened. Missing piece of what? He felt the pendant warm to a feverish degree, its glow seeping into his skin. The hum in the room swelled, vibrating the walls, the floor, and his very bones. It was as if the mansion itself acknowledged the presence of this man, this uncle whose existence had been erased from their family history. "Your father." The man's voice dropped to a whisper that still shook the air. "He hid everything from you. He wanted you to live a quiet life, oblivious of the legacy you carry." He circled the glass case, lingering on the bundle of fabric. "But I could not. I never could. And now, it is time for you to know. Time for you to hear." Adrian's vision darted from the pendant to the case, then to the man. Every fiber in his body screamed that this was bigger than anything he had imagined. Bigger than the surgeries, bigger than the tutors, bigger than the perfectly insulated life his father had built around him. Bigger than silence itself. The man extended his hand, slow, deliberate, and Adrian felt compelled to reach out. He wanted answers, but fear gnawed at him. Why me?" he signed weakly, his fingers trembling. The uncle's eyes softened for the briefest moment, almost human, almost regretful. "Because you carry what no one else in this world can. The ability to bridge two realms, silence and sound, life and legacy. And the ones who sealed your hearing, they feared what you might become. But I never doubted it. Marena tightened her grip on his shoulder, a silent warning. Adrian hesitated, then slowly, trembling, placed his hand over the uncle's outstretched palm. The moment their skin touched, a shock ran through him. Not painful, but awakening. A rush of vibrations cascaded through him, coiling, untangling, and suddenly he could feel layers of sound, of voices, of whispers that had been buried in the mansion for decades. The uncle's eyes gleamed. "Do you feel it?" he asked. Adrian nodded slowly, almost in disbelief. His chest felt alive in a way it never had before. I do, he signed. But even as he did, he realized something startling. He could almost hear. Not fully, not perfectly, but fragments of the world sound were there, like hidden threads surfacing through water. Footsteps on the stairs, the wind outside, Marena's breathing, all faint, yet distinct. The uncle chuckled. "Good, very good, but that is only the beginning." He moved closer to the case and lifted the cloth carefully, revealing what had been hidden inside for years. A small, ancient device, a contraption that seemed impossibly intricate, glowing faintly like it contained its own heartbeat. "This," he said, "was made to control the gift you were born with. And to unlock the truth, you must wield it." Adrian stared, mesmerized, fear mixing with awe. He could sense the energy emanating from the device, and with the pendant in his hand, he felt a connection, like two parts of a single power recognizing each other. He had no idea what the device did exactly, but instinct told him it would change everything. Marena signed frantically. "Once he activates it, nothing will be the same. You must choose carefully." The uncle looked down at Adrian, his expression both patient and commanding. "Time is short. Your father's enemies are closer than you think. Your silence has kept you safe. Until now. Will you step forward, Adrian, and reclaim what was always yours?" The hum in the room surged again, resonating with the pendant, the device, and Adrian himself. It filled his chest, his arms, his legs, until he felt as if he could stand no longer. But at the same time, the vibration gave him strength, urging him to act. He lifted the device carefully, hands trembling. The pendant blazed in response, its glow warm and insistent. He could feel the sound trying to break free inside him, like a storm trapped in glass, ready to explode. Adrian took a deep breath, deep, though it was unheard, felt more than known, and looked at his uncle. I am ready," he signed. The uncle's smile widened, almost triumphantly. "Then let the world hear you, Adrian Donovan." At that exact moment, the pendant's glow flared violently. The air around them seemed to pulse with energy. And then, slowly and possibly, Adrian heard it, a single, clear note, a sound so pure it made him shiver. He wasn't just hearing it, he was feeling it, tasting it, living it. And in that note, in that vibration, he realized something that would change everything. The single note lingered in the air, vibrating through Adrian's chest like a pulse from the universe itself. It was not merely sound, it was a message, a key, a memory somehow encoded in vibration. His eyes widened as layers of tones and frequencies unfolded around him, weaving together a story only he could perceive. Each hum, each resonance, painted a vivid picture. His father's fear, his mother's secret, and the reason for his silence. Marena's eyes were wide, urgent. She signed frantically, "It's activating. Control it, or it will control you." Adrian barely noticed. The pendant's warmth spread from his palm through his arm, into his chest, and then into his head, igniting every nerve with awareness. The vibrations grew more complex, layered, almost intelligent, as if the mansion itself was alive and speaking to him through the device. He looked at the uncle, whose face was illuminated by the crimson glow of the case. This is power," Adrian signed, still trembling. The uncle nodded slowly. "Yes, but power has consequences. The same gift that can awaken your hearing, your perception, can destroy everything if mishandled. That is why your father kept it hidden. That is why they sealed your ears." Adrian's mind raced. "Why me?" He signed again, desperation threading his movements. "Why give me this now?" The uncle's smile was tinged with sadness. "Because the world is changing, and you cannot hide forever. There are forces that want your silence to remain permanent. Those who took from you the ability to hear, they are still out there. And if you awaken fully, you will not just hear, they will know you are awake. A sudden, sharp vibration shot up Adrian's arm from the pendant, making him cry out, in body, though not in sound. The device in the case pulsed in response, aligning with the pendant, as if recognizing its counterpart. The air thickened, charged with raw energy, and for the first time, Adrian felt power coursing through him. Not just in perception, but in potential, in destiny. Marena stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm. It's linked to you, she signed. You can guide it, or it will guide you, and what comes out may not be what you want. Adrian's gaze flicked the device, now glowing brighter, intricate gears and small crystal filaments vibrating as if alive. He could sense the energy moving through it and through him, and he realized the truth. The pendant and the device were one system, designed to unlock not just hearing, but everything that had been withheld from him. His past, his family, the hidden dangers. They were all encoded in the system, waiting for him to awaken. The uncle stepped closer. Once you activate it fully, your silence will end. You will hear everything. The truth, the world, even those who thought they had buried it. But remember, knowledge comes with a price. Can you bear the weight? Adrian hesitated, feeling the vibrations surge again, stronger this time. It wasn't just sound. It was life itself, weaving around him, teasing him with whispers of voices long gone. And then he saw them, faintly in the red glow, visions of his childhood, distorted and fragmented, moments of joy, of fear, of moments he never understood as a child. And among them, the figure of his mother, holding him close, tears on her cheeks, whispering, though the words were unintelligible until now. He felt the love, the fear, the desperation. He swallowed hard, reaching for the device. Marena's hand hovered over his shoulder, tense. You must trust yourself, she signed. The moment you activate, you cross a line. There's no turning back. Adrian's fingers closed around the device. The pendant pulsed violently, almost an alarm. And then, slowly, deliberately, he pressed the activation point the uncle had indicated. The mansion erupted, not in sound, but in waves. Vibrations shot through the walls, through the floor, resonating in every object, every surface. The chandeliers quivered, the paintings shivered, and Adrian's chest vibrated as if the universe itself had taken a breath in his body. Then the first sounds reached him, faint at first. The creak of the stairs above, the flutter of curtains in the breeze, the distant rumble of the city beyond the estate walls. But they grew, layering over each other, clarity emerging from chaos. Voices he had never heard, conversations whispered in the halls over decades, secrets he had never known. He could hear the security guards murmuring in the wings, the gardener's faint footsteps outside, even the echo of his father's long-forgotten piano in the study. And then, a voice, familiar, trembling, almost broken, his mother's. The words were clearer than any sound he had ever imagined. Adrian, forgive me. Protect yourself. Trust no one but him. She pointed, barely perceptible in the vision that accompanied the sound, to the uncle. His heart lurched. Questions raced. Why hide this? Who sealed me? What does it all mean? And before he could think further, a low, sinister tone cut through the chorus of life, a vibration not natural, foreign, almost malignant. The uncle's eyes darkened. They are here, he said, his calm fractured for the first time. The ones who wanted your silence. They know you are awake, and they will come for you. Adrian's pulse thundered, the pendant throbbing violently in his hand, the device resonating with his heartbeat. The red light around the room intensified, shadows stretching long, twisting across the walls. And then, as if responding to the vibrations he now commanded, a deep hum filled the mansion, resonating outward, almost a shield, almost a warning. Marena looked at him, fierce and determined. You can control it, she signed. Focus. Your power is linked to your awareness. Here, feel, think, then act. Adrian closed his eyes, letting the vibrations wash over him. The hum, the whispers, the chaotic layering of sound, it all formed into a pattern, Shapes, signals, warnings. He could sense movement in the shadows, footsteps approaching, subtle vibrations in the floorboards, whispers and voices that weren't human. Danger was near, but so was opportunity. He could fight it. He could protect himself. Opening his eyes, he lifted the device and the pendant together. The red glow bathed his face. He felt alive in a way he never had. For the first time, he wasn't just a silent boy trapped in a mansion of secrets. He was the inheritor of something ancient, powerful, and dangerous. And now, with every vibration coursing through him, he realized his life, his silence, his destiny was about to explode into a reality no one, not even his father, could have imagined. And then, from the deepest corner of the room, the shadows stirred. A figure emerged, tall, menacing, and deliberate. Its presence made the air quiver. Adrian's hands tightened on the device. His pulse, the pendant, the vibrations, they all surged together, a symphony of awakening power. The figure stopped just within the red glow, and for a heartbeat, all was still. Then the figure spoke, and Adrian heard it, not just as sound, but as truth. Adrian froze, the words vibrating through his chest before they reached his ears in any conventional sense. The figure in the red light was tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in shadows that seemed to swallow the glow of the room. Its voice was layered, almost a chorus, echoing not only in the space but inside Adrian himself. "You've awakened," it said, calm, deliberate, dangerous. "After 12 long years, you can hear. And now you must choose. Will you be a tool, or will you claim what is rightfully yours?" Adrian's mind raced. Every instinct screamed to run, but his body, energized by the pendant and the device, felt impossibly steady. He could feel the power in the room, responding to his presence, pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. The shadows stretched and twisted around the figure, forming shapes that were almost human, almost monstrous. Marena stepped in front of him, her face tight with determination. She signed quickly, urgently, "Do not hesitate. Do not underestimate him. He will test you, and he will try to break you." Adrian took a deep breath, letting the vibrations of the mansion, the pendant, and the device merge into one awareness. His mind sharpened. He could feel the figure's intent as clearly as if it were a physical force pushing against him. Fear twisted in his stomach, but beneath it was something stronger, resolve. He had spent 12 silent years dreaming of this moment, imagining the world in sound and movement, and now it was here. He would not be passive. The figure took a slow step forward, each movement measured, deliberate. Adrian could feel the air shift with each step, could sense the weight of presence in a way no ordinary human could. And then, in a motion almost imperceptible, it raised one hand. A vibration surged from the figure, low, insistent, like a drumbeat that threatened to overwhelm Adrian's senses. The pendant flared. The device in Adrian's hands hummed in response. The two energies locked together, resonating in a protective, almost offensive rhythm. Adrian felt a surge of power, but instead of fear, it ignited clarity. He understood instinctively. This was a test, not just of hearing, but of control. He could either be overpowered, or he could wield the force within him. He closed his eyes, focusing, allowing the vibrations to settle into a pattern, a rhythm that mirrored his heartbeat. Slowly, the room seemed to respond, shadows shifting back, the red glow stabilizing. The figure paused, tilting its head, as though surprised by Adrian's mastery over the energy. "You are stronger than I expected," it said, voice resonating like a deep echo. "But do not mistake strength for wisdom. This is only the beginning." Adrian's eyes snapped open. The mansion was alive around him. He could hear it now, not just in sound, but in feeling. The creaking floorboards, the distant hum of the city, the soft stir of air through the halls. It all connected. And beneath it, he sensed something darker. Forces converging, approaching. The figure was a part of it, but not the entirety. There were others, waiting, lying in the shadows, drawn by the activation of the device. He adjusted his grip on the pendant, the warmth now spreading to his chest, arms, and legs, filling him with a sensation both exhilarating and terrifying. Marena's eyes met his. "You can do this," she signed, her hand steady despite the tension. "Focus. Control the resonance." Make it yours. Adrian nodded slightly, letting the vibrations carry him. The room thrummed with energy, a tangible force that wrapped around him like a cloak. Slowly, carefully, he directed it outward, shaping the sound waves, the hums, the vibrations into a shield, a barrier of awareness. The figure hesitated, taken aback by the precision, the instinctive control Adrian wielded without hesitation. "You have potential," the figure admitted, its voice dropping to a whisper. "But do you have courage? Can you face what comes next?" Adrian felt it. A ripple of movement from the corner of the room. Another shadow, smaller but faster, darting between pillars of crimson light. The mansion was alive, and it was sending him messages. Footsteps, whispers, echoes of past betrayals, all converging in this single moment. He realized he could perceive them all, not as ordinary sound, but as vibrations, subtle, layered, each one telling a story. He directed the energy again, pushing it outward in a controlled pulse. The shadows around the figure recoiled slightly, flickering like smoke in a windstorm. Adrian could feel the figure faltering. Confidence surged inside him. Clarity replaced fear. He was no longer just a boy who had been silenced. He was a boy who had learned to hear the world differently, to sense what others could not. The figure's voice deepened, echoing with frustration. "Do you even understand what you've unleashed? Do you know the legacy you carry?" Adrian's eyes narrowed. The pendant pulsed. The device thrummed in harmony. He didn't need to speak. The mansion, the vibrations, the energy itself answered him. "Yes, I understand, and I will not be controlled." With a swift movement, he stepped forward, letting the energy flow through him, outwards in a concentrated surge. The shadows shrieked silently, recoiling from the intensity. The figure staggered back, surprised by the force, the precision, the sheer willpower. Adrian felt exhilaration, power, and clarity unlike anything before. Marena's hands were on his shoulders again, guiding, steadying, urging him to maintain focus. "You are the bridge, the key, the voice they tried to silence. Now claim it." The figure steadied itself, narrowing its eyes. "Impressive! But this is only the beginning, Adrian Donovan. The world you've been protected from, the secrets your father hid, will rise against you, allies and enemies alike. And soon you will understand some silences are dangerous for a reason." Adrian didn't flinch. The pendant flared in his hand, the device humming, the vibrations aligning perfectly with his heartbeat. He felt the mansion respond, bending to the resonance, acknowledging him as master, as inheritor. He was no longer the silent boy. He was awake, he was aware, and he was ready to face whatever legacy, danger, or revelation awaited him. The figure took a deep breath, almost a hiss. "Then let us see if the boy who could not hear can survive the world he was meant to inherit." Adrian's heart thrummed in perfect unison with the pendant, the device, and the energy that now flowed through the room. Every vibration, every echo, every hidden whisper of the mansion, and beyond was just a sense, to command, to wield. He stepped forward, fully aware, fully alive, fully prepared. And as the shadows stirred again, coiling and writhing like living smoke, Adrian realized this. Silence had protected him. Sound had awakened him. And now, nothing, not even his family's darkest secrets, nor the enemies who lurked unseen, could stop the boy who had finally learned to hear the world. The figure lunged, shadows rippling like waves of darkness, and Adrian responded instinctively, letting the vibrations pulse outward, striking not with brute force, but with a mastery of sound, resonance, and energy he had never known he could command. The mansion shuddered. The pendant blazed. The device sang. And Adrian Donovan, once a boy born in silence, was about to make the world hear him in a way no one could have ever imagined. Adrian's pulse raced, yet every beat felt synchronized with the thrum of the mansion itself. The shadows recoiled before him, writhing like living smoke, yet he did not falter. He had discovered a rhythm in the chaos, a power within the pendant and the device that was no longer foreign, but his. Each vibration carried purpose. Each hum spoke truth, and every whispered echo of the mansion guided his hands, his instincts, his very soul. The figure in front of him lunged, dark energy twisting in the crimson glow. But Adrian was ready. He raised the pendant and device together, and the resonance that poured from him was not just sound. It was a force, a wave of awakening that cut through the shadows, scattering them like mist before the sun. He felt the pulse of the mansion, the whispers of generations long gone, and he let it flow through him, an unstoppable current of strength and clarity. As the figure faltered under the power of Adrian's control, Marena stepped closer, her eyes shining with awe and relief. "You are more than they ever imagined," she signed. "You are the heir of their legacy, the bridge between what was hidden and what must be known." Adrian nodded, barely breathing, his senses attuned to every movement, every vibration in the room. He could hear now not just sound, but life, energy, intention. The figure steadied itself, glowering, but Adrian did not retreat. "You've underestimated me," he signed, feeling the energy resonate in perfect alignment with his will. "I am not just a boy who was born silent. I am the voice of what was lost, and I will not be silenced again." For a heartbeat, the mansion held its breath. Then, with a surge of life in the pendant and the device, Adrian released a controlled wave of resonance. The shadows shattered, dissipating like smoke caught in a sudden gust of wind. The figure stumbled, finally visible in the full crimson glow, and in that moment, Adrian understood everything. The reason for his silence, the reason for his isolation, the danger the secrets kept from him. The figure had tried to break him, to control him, to wield the boy who could not hear. But Adrian had transformed the trap into liberation. And then, with a single movement, the figure lunged again, but Adrian's command of the energy was absolute. He directed a pulse of resonance that struck not to harm, but to reveal. The figure's form shifted, the shadows dissolving, and finally, the truth emerged. It was not just a man before him. It was the echo of betrayal, the manifestation of fear, and the culmination of the secrets that had haunted the Donovan family for generations. The figure fell back, eyes wide in disbelief, as Adrian's mastery of sound, vibration, and energy radiated outward, claiming the room, the mansion, and even the hidden corners of history. Breathless, Adrian stood tall. He could hear Marena's sigh of relief, feel the pulse of life in the mansion, sense the vibrations of the outside world. For the first time, he experienced reality in its full spectrum. The whispers of wind in the trees, the distant hum of the city, the subtle shift in the air that spoke of approaching danger and opportunity alike. He was alive in ways he had never imagined, empowered by knowledge, strength, and the truth finally unlocked. The uncle stepped forward cautiously, his eyes wide with admiration and fear. "You've done what no one else could," he admitted. "You've awakened fully. You've not just reclaimed your hearing, Adrian. You've reclaimed your destiny." Adrian's gaze swept over the room, taking in the relics, the symbols, the family secrets now revealed. He felt the weight of generations, but it was not crushing. It was empowering. Each vibration, each hum, each whisper had become a part of him, a guide, a teacher, a weapon, and a key. He was no longer a passive observer in a world that had kept him silent. He was the force that could command it. Marena stepped closer and placed a hand on his arm. "The dangers are not over," she signed softly, though her eyes shone with confidence. "The world you inherit is vast and shadows still linger, but now you have the power to face them, to shape them, to become the voice they cannot silence." Adrian nodded, feeling the surge of energy within him, harmonizing with the pendant, the device, and the very structure of a mansion. The hums had become a symphony, a language of power that only he could wield. He could feel the future stretching before him, limitless, filled with challenges and revelations alike. But for the first time, he did not fear it. He had been born silent, yes, but now he was awake, attuned and unbreakable. He looked once more at the fallen figure, the shadows that had threatened him, and the room pulsing with energy. Then he spoke, not in words, but in motion, in resonance, in command. The mansion itself seemed to answer, the hums rising, swirling, becoming a crescendo of liberation and triumph. Adrian had become the master sound of truth, of destiny itself. The shadows dissolved completely, leaving only clarity, light, and the warm glow of the pendant in his hand. Adrian felt the first true joy of life coursing through him. The thrill of hearing, of feeling, of knowing that nothing could undo what had been awakened. He turned to Marena, a smile on his face, strong and confident, radiating the power he had finally embraced. "You've given me more than hearing," he signed, his eyes shining with intensity and purpose. "You've given me freedom. And now, I will make the world hear me." Marena smiled, nodding. She knew, as he did, that nothing would ever be the same again. The mansion, the family secrets, the forces that had tried to control him, all had been tested and found powerless against a boy who had been born in silence, but had risen to command sound itself. Adrian stepped toward the open windows of the mansion, feeling the vibrations of the city, the wind, the life outside. He was no longer trapped in the quiet, no longer hidden from truth. He could hear, feel, understand, and command. The world lay before him like a vast symphony, waiting for him to play the first note. And as the sun dipped behind the horizon, bathing the mansion in golden light, Adrian Donovan, once silent, now awakened, smiled. The boy who had been born deaf had become more than anyone could imagine. A master of sound, a bearer of truth, and a force that could no longer be silenced. The legacy of the Donovan family was no longer hidden. It lived in him, vibrant and unstoppable, and the world would never forget the day the boy who could not hear finally made it resound.